Hi, I'm Josh. Welcome to a new video, and today I'll be doing a recap of the albums I listened to in April. This month I didn't listen to many albums. I've been super busy and haven't had the chance to check new albums. But there were a few, so let's go for it. The first one I listened to this month was No Pun Intended by Tyler Joseph. And I think you all know I love 21 Pilots, and Tyler Joseph is among the musicians I admire the most. So I went to listen to his first and so far only solo album to know where everything started. In case you don't know, he did this album by himself a couple years before 21 Pilots was even a thing, and I gotta say I'm impressed by it. Especially by Tyler's vocals, they were so good. Of course he needed development, but the guy had really good vocals since he started doing music. And I will even dare to say that the songs here have better performances than in some 21 Pilots records, like in Regional at Best for example. Talking about the music, even though it's missing some musical maturity, I think they're pretty solid for the conditions they were made in. And Tyler nailed some seriously amazing songs that I'm sure will get a lot of praise if they were released officially. Like the first track, Blasphemy, and I Wanna Know, but the one that takes the crown for me is Save. Damn, amazing song with an incredible, surprising performance where you see him pleading Jesus to save him. Along with the music, this song is surprising to say the least. It leaves you there like, whoa. This record was super worth a listen. Listening to some of the first material one of my favorite musicians put out was super interesting, and my favorite song on it was Safe. Yeah, by far. Next one was Justice by Justin Bieber. This record was mid at best, but there were a couple moments I want to talk about. First, Deserve You. It was definitely a good song I enjoyed and vibed to. Off My Face was a pretty song. I think his voice and the guitar were really nice, even though the lyrics were I liked it. Peaches, I vibed to that song. Anyone, another really nice song too. But the one I really wanted to talk about was Lonely. That song was unexpectedly honest and touching. Justin is a guy I've always looked at and thought, man, it's gotta be hard to be him. His delve with stardom, fame, recognition, insane amounts of hate and love, money since such a young age. It doesn't excuse his acts as he tries to in the song, but I gotta say he performs with an emotion that ends up being touching, as I said. I've never seen him opening so much or being this honest, and I really liked it. I really liked the song. It was my favorite one on the record. Next one was 808s and Heartbreak by Kanye West, and I didn't want to include this record in this part because I didn't like it, but I do have some good things to say about it. First, it's crazy to see how much influence this record has had in hip-hop since it was released. You can definitely see where many artists from the past decade took reference, and I find so interesting how an album can change a genre so much. Still, as I said, I didn't like it, but Heartless is on my top 3 Kanye West songs. I love it. The autotune in his voice works so well, and it ends up being a beautiful melody. I will even go to say that's my favorite autotune used in any song, and my favorite chorus by Kanye too. I think it's so good. His performance in Coldest Winter was also really good too. And Pinocchio Story, damn, that song hit hard. Kanye is opening himself in a way that's wow to the audience in front of him. Freestyling lines that came from the bottom of him. And what's crazy is that the audience doesn't really seem to care. They keep screaming and going insane. It's ironic but also heartbreaking. I love that moment of the record. Perfect closer and definitely perplexing too. Next one was Jesus by Kanye West, and I wasn't expecting to like this one as much, because it's no surprise that it divides people a lot. But I really enjoyed it. Overall, I think I enjoyed it entirely, and there was not a moment I didn't enjoy, which hadn't happened in any of his other albums except for The College Dropout. It was so interesting listening to Kanye, as experimental as he's ever been. The sound of this record is great. It's low, deep, rich, and it hits your body through your ears. The instruments throughout the whole project have such a power. Drums, synths, and bass are so huge. I love it. The opening track, Onside, is so noisy, weird, and that chorus it has. It's so nice that it makes the beat feel weird when it kicks out again. And I like that so much. Some other really good songs this record had were New Slaves, I'm In It, and Bound 2. Man, Bound 2 is a banger. But in general, I think Jesus is a banger album, even with the doubtful lyrics it has. My favorite song on it is Blood on the Leaves. That thing goes hard. The horns are delicious, and that's one of my favorite samples from him. Cause goddamn, they make this song so fire. Every time the beat starts again, it has me headbanging all the time. Plus, I really like the piano and Kanye's performance. Not only my favorite one on the record, but also one of my favorite ones from him. Next we have Watch the Throne by Jay-Z and Kanye West. And you know, I liked it. I definitely did. It was a pretty good listen even when some moments were mid. Many moments actually. But it has some great tracks like No Church in the Wild, the one where they're in Paris, Made in America, which has a great Frank Ocean feature, and now that I mention him, he has great features in this album. I think he adds a lot because Kanye and Jay-Z don't sing as pretty as him, so his choruses end up being really nice. Some of my favorite moments on the record feature him, and I also want to talk about Jay-Z. I think his performances were flawless. They were so good that even overshadowed Kanye most of the times. But yeah, in general this album had really good beats, excellent performances, lyrics were but I really enjoyed it. I think my favorite song on it may be Welcome to the Jungle. Probably, yeah. And with this album I finished listening to Kanye's entire discography so far. Great. Next, Untitled Unmastered by Kendrick Lamar. And for what it is, I think it's great. I'll talk more deeply about this album in a future video where I'll rank his discography after his new album drops. But yeah, this album was pretty much leftovers from To Pimp a Butterfly, and it was released as such, instead of forcing them into another project where they wouldn't fit. And I really like that Kendrick released all this material that didn't make it into the album, but he still wanted to put out. And for me, as a fan of him and music in general, I really like listening to this kind of stuff. It gives you a little insight of the whole album making process, and I love that. Plus, this is actually very complete. Like, you will expect some garage demos recorded in a toaster, but this album is actually quite finished, and because of that it ends up being a really cool thing of its own. I enjoy listening to it a lot. There are some moments I really like Untitled number 2 and 6, so yeah, great listen. Next one was Salad Days by Mac DeMarco. And okay, I'm not super crazy about the music on this album. I'm not a huge indie fan, but I find this record to be really honest, both in the production and the lyrics. And what do I mean with that? Well, it's recorded in an authentic way. You can hear the bass from the mics and amps. Guitars and drums are played so naturally, and it's not overproduced at all. It's very authentic in its sound. It feels like you're there in the studio and you're hearing everything as it was played. And I really gotta give that to this album, because as I said, it makes it feel more honest. And the lyrics on it were nice. Mac has a pretty voice and you can understand clearly what he's saying, so that's the point. My favorite song on it, Blue Boy, I think that song was amazing, but I also really like Goodbye Weekend and Go Easy. Next, God Hates Us All by Slayer. I had an incredible blast listening to this record. Brutal from start to end. Had me headbanging the whole time, cause goddamn it's heavy. And you know, in early Slayer albums you get some slow, clean parts to kinda breathe. Here you don't at all. They're gonna be throwing everything at you non-stop. And I love that, cause it has some seriously sick riffs. Those in Threshold and Decibel are riffs I cannot avoid headbanging to. Tom performed excellently, his voice is as good as ever, and I will even dare to say this is his best performance in an album. His screams were incredible, and he's pretty much screaming the whole time. It's crazy! And I gotta say, Paul Bostaph is a hell of a badass drummer. His drums on this album are sick. His double bass feels like the apocalypse is starting. Not only does it sound great, but he's playing complicated lines, man. Like seriously, what a drummer. And he plays with such a power, he's killing those drums. And it couldn't fit better, not only for this album, but for Slayer in general. Being able to fill Dave Lombardo's shoes is not an easy task, and he did it. Amazing album, no other classic band included the new metal wave into their music as good as freaking Slayer did. My favorite song on it, Threshold, one of the heaviest songs I've ever heard. Next, It's Almost Dry by Pusha T. Well, I decided to listen to this record for two reasons. First, it's produced by Pharrell and Kanye, so there was a big chance it would be very good, and I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying it was good, so I decided to give it a chance. And I had a great time listening to it. I had never listened to anything from Pusha T, and I think this was a really nice way to get into him, because I'll definitely keep checking his stuff. This album was a really nice listen, kinda refreshing even. I haven't listened to anything similar to it before, so it was cool finding something new. Overall, I think it has some fire songs and beats, great features, not gonna lie, on-point production, and it was super interesting. For example, Brambleton. That song has a really interesting beat. There's also a lot of exploration with styles. Diet Coke is an example of that. You know, I really like this record. I like Pusha a lot. Really good listen. And now the ones I don't have much to say about. 17 by X. Everyone is Good at Something by Skex. Dial It by Playboi Carti. And What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. Finally, the last album I listened to was Zeit by Rammstein. Okay, I love Rammstein. I think they're a sick, incredible, unique band. I got into them like a week before their self-titled album came out, and that record was freaking fire. For like the whole next year, I listened to them a lot, but lately I haven't that much. Still, I was excited to hear new material from them, even though I had forgotten this record was releasing. But I listened to it, and I gotta say, it was not that good. I enjoyed it, kinda. I liked a lot the first song, Army da Tristen. Added it to my Rammstein playlist because it's a banger. It has a different atmosphere to what any of their recent material had. And guitar sounds sick. Overall, this album sounds really good. They are a band that sounds amazing together. Those guitar tones are just delicious. But aside from that, I don't think this album has much to offer. And for a band that focuses so much on riffs and the atmosphere they create, I think it lacks a lot. I didn't dislike any song on it, but aside from Zeit and Arme der Tristen, I didn't really like anything either, which surprises me because in every other album from them I had listened to, there were at least a couple songs I loved. This wasn't the case, but it wasn't bad. This month I listened to 14 albums. It was okay. If you like 21 Pilots, I recommend you to check No Pun Intended. It's quite interesting. Same goes for Untitled and Mastered if you are a Kendrick fan. God Hates Us All and Untitled and Mastered were also really good listens you could check. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Check my first album, Dimewoods, if you haven't yet. It's available everywhere, but you'll have the Spotify link in the description for you to go check it. I'd really appreciate if you do. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I've been waiting for years, hoping there's still a chance that you'll come visiting someday. Don't care if the cars are rusty, the wallet's black, you can still pretend it's fun to live.